What up, Fantasy Goat Nation, man? Commercial Rhino here tonight. I had a special start time, man. I am freaking just stoked for tonight's guest, man. I started following them and started getting to know them, and they just blew my mind with their information and their how they uh, profile players. So let's get to it, man. Let me introduce them. The Dojo, Devi Sensei.
Yes, sir. Ron, hey, thanks for having me again, fellas. Look, we get to hop on with the GOATs tonight. Fantasy Goats, man. I'm just super excited to talk some of these rookie prospects or whatever you really got for us, man. So excited to get into it. This is probably my favorite time of the year, right? We get, like, when I was a kid, I liked Christmas because you got to open up presents, and that's really what this feels like that same feeling. So very excited to be here.
And his partner, the Devi Shifu, Chris DeCarmen. How you doing tonight, brother?
Good, man. I'm very excited to be on the show. We're very honored to have gotten the invite. I agree, though. This is a great time of year. Everybody needs a little bit break, especially from the sleeper app. I hate the sleeper app. It's so buggy. It never works right. And now we're rolling right back into mock draft season, so I'm going to be on it more than ever. But this is a great time of the year for everybody to reset, get prepped up for the actual NFL draft here in April, and start thinking about what the future holds, because the champion has been crowned and there's 31 other teams that have hope for this season.
Yeah, big time. And we call this in between season. There's no off season. It's in between season for us, man. And me and JX, not the levels you guys are with the college players, man, but we love the college ball. So before we get started and talking about the combine preview, let's tell the goats about yourselves, about the Devi Dojo, and what that means and the titles, because it's a lot, man.
Yeah, well, first off, we started this podcast back in June, so we're still not even in our first year, but we hit the ground running, man, and it feels like we've been doing it a lot longer. It's great to be doing this with one of my best friends here, and Chris. And Devi is just simply, like, think of it like short for developmental. So we're focusing on a format that you draft these college players ahead of time and they sit in your roster. You're not worried about points, but you're worried. The goal is to find these guys that you believe have the talent to make it to the NFL. So then when they get drafted, they move over to your dynasty roster, and now they're on your team. Like, this is your team. So it's really about scouting ahead of time. And so that's why you see the way that we present our information about these guys, because it's all about scouting and how they can translate to the NFL.
And the way you guys scout, man, I'm telling you, man, you guys do a phenomenal job. I'm learning from you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's part of the reason that Dustin invited me on as co-host. We've known each other for a few years now, just floating in the same spaces, Discords and whatnot, chatting ball. And he takes a little bit more of a film approach, and I take a little bit more of an analytical approach. And we've kind of rubbed off on each other, kind of become a little bit more of a middle ground towards each other. But we still have that divide where I like to lean towards the numbers, and he likes to lean towards the film and what he thinks can be a projected future value of a player. So it makes for a nice little dichotomy. There's times where we really agree with each other, and there's times where we really don't. For example, Casey Concepcion. So
I knew you were going to bring it up.
Sometimes we agree and sometimes we don't, and that makes for good content. And ultimately, we're just trying to navigate these waters. And the reason that I love the Devi format is because I come from a background. I've played fantasy football for like 20 years at this point, but I also really enjoy fantasy baseball and fantasy hockey. And for anybody who's never played those, it's very, very often that if you're doing a dynasty format, you draft players when they're drafted in those, major league drafts, and you're sitting them. Hockey players never make it, other than the top maybe 10 of the draft. They make it right to the NHL. The rest of them go back to playing somewhere in Canada. Same with baseball. Everybody's in a farm league for years. So you have these guys, you draft them and you wait on them. So you get a farm team, you watch them, you trade them, you do X, Y, Z. And that's basically what Devi is for fantasy football. So I see it as kind of the future of fantasy football. I think that as we continue to expand the fantasy football game into all the, everybody's a degenerate at this point. We all play Superflex. We all play Dynasty. We all play all these different versions that are much different than the redraft we grew up on. I think this is kind of the next forefront, and that's why we really enjoy it, is because you want to be right, and you can stake your claim on a player way earlier in Devy.
And you guys go back. You guys are like profiling kids coming out and like freshmen and stuff.
Yeah, we haven't really dove into the freshman class yet. Here very soon, starting in March, we're really going to kind of amp that up. But yeah, so that would be class of 2029. That's coming in right now. Last year's freshman would be 2028. It sounds crazy, but it's really like the more you get into it and the more you just start watching, it becomes so natural. You remember Bryce Underwood of Michigan. He was a top pick in these supplemental drafts, in C2C and other college formats. You just kind of over time start to learn. And then of course, Chris and I, we're starting to build our rankings for each class. And so that helps too. Just the more that you're in it and start thinking of those future classes, it really just becomes like second nature. You remember these freshmen, sophomores, and things like that. And you're looking for those early breakouts. You begin to learn the trends, and it just helps over time. So it sounds like a lot, but it's really not that bad, I promise.
Now, do you guys look at like high school film too, or how do you know these players?
So that's a very good question. There's obviously not like an all 22 format of that for film.
No.
And me being a film guy, I need something. Thankfully, a lot of these high school players, they have like this. It's not a social media hub, but it's a website called Huddle, where they're able to put up their high school highlights, and that's scouts can look at them as well. My nephew actually is looking to get recruited in basketball, and I'm helping him upload his highlights there on Huddle. So it's a free service. You could go there and look at these kids' highlight tapes and kind of form your own opinion. Of course, there's websites like 247 or On3, which you could pay a subscription fee for, and they have these scouts that have their own little scouting reports, and you could use that as kind of like some supplemental information to go back on. It has their recruiting grade and things of that nature. So it's like an introductory type of presentation that you could see, and okay, I kind of got an idea of what this guy looks like. You could look at the highlights, but ultimately you got to see what they look like on the football field at that next level. So it's a gamble. There's guys that you fall in love with. Malachi Nelson. I mean, come on, Ron, you're a Trojans fan. You remember that name.
Mm-hmm.
Malachi Nelson was a big time recruit for us, and we thought, hey, he was going to be the next big thing. I drafted a lot of Malachi Nelson, and he burned me, man. He burned me so bad. So Devy is not for the weak of heart, because for every success story that you have about 20 more stories where it just did not go according to plan.
Those UTEP shares don't feel as strong in that today.
No, sir. It still hurts, man. I'm telling you. I invested a lot in him.
That's what's so fun about it, though, because most likely, I mean, a lot of us play a ton of different leagues, and you're not going to win them all, right? You're going to lose more than you win. And Devy, you're going to do even more losing. You're going to be on the wrong side of history quite often because you're going to have the wrong players on your team. There's just so many college football players. And when you start talking about incoming freshmen, guys that are just coming out of high school, you can look at their tape as much as you want. You can watch Huddle. You can check them out on Twitter. I thank God for Twitter for looking at high school tape, because you can find a lot of guys on there, see their highlights, XYZ. But there's just so many players that you can have an idea that they might be good. It's just like recruiting, or like if you're a coach at the college level, right? They might be good, but ultimately it takes a lot of development to actually make it to the NFL. And if not everything breaks right, I mean, there's a very slim chance you're going to be good in high school and then make it to the NFL. So it makes for a fun game, but you also have to be willing to, take one on the chin every now and then, because it's not always pretty.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna dive into it. If there's still teams open, I'm gonna do it. So
love it.
Hey,
yeah.
Let's go.
We'll be doing some startups for sure.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to this, man. So let's get to it, man. Combine. I love the combine. I've even before fantasy football. Well, before I got really into fantasy football, I used to watch the combine, and that's why I won so many championships the first 9 years in my league that they started having started blackballing me a little bit. It was a family league, so nobody would make trades for me, and it was weird. But I ended up starting my own league. But the combine is such a good thing for these college students, especially the smaller schools that don't get the recognition that like the bigger, like the Power 5 do. So before we get into the big names, what are some sleepers from the small schools that you guys are looking that you can tell the fantasy goats about?
We just did a mock draft, actually one that you're in, and then we did a really fast one right before this, like half an hour ago.
I almost did that one, but I wasn't
with
sure
our guys from the Pulse. Yeah. And I've been taking Bryce Lance, and I haven't quite dove in completely on him yet to write up a profile or anything.
Trey Lance's brother.
But yeah.
Yes.
I think he looks, everything I've seen of him looks good. His underlying metrics are good. He also went to North Dakota State. So I really like Bryce Lance. I think he's one of the big sleepers. And this is a very deep wide receiver class this year. Very, the big three at the top, and then a lot of depth in this one. So I think you could just, if you don't know exactly what you want to do in the second, third round of dynasty drafts, just take a shot on one of these wide receivers. And obviously us here at the Devy Dojo, we're here to help. We got our rookie guide coming out. So look at some of these guys that we have profiled for you, and just take a shot on any one of them, because there's some deep wide receivers in this draft class. And I like Bryce Lance a lot the more I watch him.
See, and as quarterback, Cole Payton, I think he's somebody to watch too, that if he does good, he can move up that board. He might need to sit for a year or two, but he has the tangibles to be a starting NFL quarterback.
I think there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks in this class that are of that same ilk, where they're not going to be, there's not really many ready-made starters for the NFL, but there's quite a few guys that I like that are going to slip down drafts because of that. And you're just going to want them, take a third round, late third, fourth round pick, whatever, and just know that they're going to sit for a minute. I mean, obviously I'm a Penn State guy. I think you probably have learned that at this point, Rhino, just from watching our content here at the Devy Dojo. So I love Drew Aller. I'm still super high on Drew Aller, but you're right. Cole Payton's a great example of that. I think there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks who maybe need a year, even like, honestly, Ty Simpson. I'm really hoping that he gets drafted to a play. I'm praying that he gets drafted to the Rams. Go somewhere where you can sit behind an established starter, an established vet, and then start in year two.
We're both Rams fans, me and Jed. and I am Drew Aller's was my QB 2 out of this class. Ty Simpson my QB 4.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that's fair, honestly.
And it's nothing to slight Ty Simpson. Is just the 1 year starting, and then I can't get the fact that he couldn't beat out Milroe. So it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, Milroe wasn't a bad quarterback, and a little bit of a different situation with a new head coach and everything. But I think he was impressive this year. He just kind of fell off as SEC play started to come in. He was really hot off the blocks. And then as the year progressed, he wasn't quite as good as we projected earlier in this season. So come October, November, it was a little bit of a different story for him, but he still had a pretty remarkable season. There's a reason he's getting some first round buzz. I think it's inevitable that the Steelers are going to just take him in the first round and
so too.
Piss off a lot of Steelers fans.
But I don't know why, because I don't know why I don't give Will Howard a chance. Will Howard I thought he was good in Ohio State.
I like Will Howard.
I like Will Howard too. I'm not really a Ty Simpson guy per se, but he did do some things that impressed me. I really liked his mobility within the pocket, the ability to step up, avoid pressure. Chris kind of mentioned later in the season he fell off. There was some injuries too, and some back stuff going on with him. He had a pretty good stretch against the SEC though, Chris, if you remember. Like that was kind of the calling card for him. I think he has really good traits, but I'm with you, Ron. Like we have enough historical evidence to say if you have 15 starts or less, like that's just not good enough. My benchmark would at least be like 23, 25.
There you go. See, and there you go. That's why I like people like Nussmeier and Beck. Yeah. Beck 40 games.
He wasn't even in college classes.
Yeah. We do move on to that, but I was talking to Ron about this. I think last week or so. Like, do we find it like coincidental that on back-to-back quarterbacks they have fallen off at the second half of the season? Should we put that more on the prospect, or maybe look at the board a little bit for that?
Yeah, I don't know, Chris. What do you think?
Because I mean, like I said, this time, or not this time, but last year, Jalen Milroe, we were talking about he could maybe be a top 3 guy, and then as the season kind of goes along, he kind of falls. Yeah. Same thing with Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson's like, man, he could be a top 10 guy. And then the season goes on, he kind of falters. It's like, wait, if we see it again, like it kind of confirms itself. But I'm just seeing this kind of this pattern happen.
I see what you're saying.
Seasons. Yeah,
I see. I have my doubts about Kalen DeBoer. I mean, honestly, I I don't know if he's the issue. With Jalen Milroe, he just didn't ever really have it as a passer, though, or a processor post snap. I think that was his biggest issue. He just had the athleticism to stay out there. And I think, fantasy brain, we're like, oh, hey, he could be something out there. That's fantasy gold if you're able to rush. Ty Simpson, he has a little bit of mobility, which is what I like. But his calling card was always his football IQ, to diagnose plays out there. Like even Garrett Nussmeier with the starts, you saw him able to go out there and make adjustments and protections at the line of scrimmage, really using that mind. And I think for the quarterback position, it's such a cerebral position that you have to have that IQ. You have to be able to process post snap. I think it's kind of what makes Brock Purdy so special, right? For the 49ers is athletically, he's okay. He's short of stature, but he's able to diagnose the defense well and take in a pretty complicated offense and go out there and deliver it. So those are the kind of the traits, Ron, I think you and me are aligned in there. That's why I like guys like that. That's why I like Nussmeier, even though athletically, he's not the best and short of stature, but that's my type of guy. And so I think it's not really comparable per se between Jalen Milroe and Ty Simpson. I think the situations were just different. Jalen Milroe, you saw him just his play kind of fall off, right? When he wasn't able to just win only with his legs. If a defense was able to take that away, well, then they kind of crumbled. This season, Alabama had zero running game. That was kind of an issue out there. No running game to help support him. They had a good defense that would keep him in it, but it was Ty Simpson having to go throw the ball down the field when everybody knew they had to throw. And his best weapon out there, Ryan Williams, in terms of talent, just didn't produce this season.
He had a lot of drops, didn't he?
He was one of the top. I believe he had seven drops this season and 7 last season. Yeah. So Jeremy Bernard now becomes his number 1 wide receiver. So to me, there's more context with him. I can kind of understand the situation a little bit, and that's why I'm still kind of in on Ty Simpson. I'm not a fan of him declaring though, and I'm not a fan of him going in the first round, and especially if he has to start. Then I'm out.
So there's a tight end I saw pop up on X. I'm not going to try Tonelli because of Wally or something
Tanner
like that.
Koziol.
Oh, yeah, Tanner.
I think you were talking about him in the Discord today, and I tagged our friend Kevin Coleman from Debbie Royale, and all he did was put a GIF because I thought he would break it down a little bit more because I know he was talking about him before, and he's another one. He's on my list of profiles to complete here in the next 7 days or whatever. So I haven't quite dove in a ton on him, but I think he's a decent one. That's another, this isn't a great class for tight end. There's not, it's not top heavy, but it is kind of bottom heavy. There's a lot of depth at tight end, and Koziol is one of the guys, just like a Justin Jolly is another name that you see pop up on the Twitter circles. There's some guys that are floating on that, tight end 5-6 range right now that I think have an opportunity to, if they land at the right spot. And that's the big thing with tight end. We've come to expect tight ends to just boom because of what we've seen out of Laporta and Brock Bowers and, all these guys recently, Kyle Pitts, that have come out and just absolutely dominated. But the reality is, historically, tight end is not going to come. You have to wait a year or two on tight ends. So there's a couple guys in this class that are intriguing. And there's a couple guys from last class that I was pretty high on, like Tanner Ferguson or Tyler Ferguson. What's his name?
Terrence.
Yeah. Terrence, I'm mixing it up because we Tanner Koziol, but Terrence Ferguson, guys like that I feel like it's tough to adapt to the NFL tight end game. So it seemed like Ferguson towards the end of the year was starting to get a rapport. I guess I'm just bringing up all the Rams, since you guys are here, but you start to see this development as the year goes on, and that's intriguing. And when you draft a tight end, if you're not doing it super high, you're gonna expect, okay, let's wait a year or two and see what happens. And realistically, tight end is such a dead zone for fantasy rosters. There's only a few guys that you feel comfortable maybe 4 that you feel comfortable every week starting. So you just have to take shots on these guys. But I do think Koziol is good. I just haven't quite done a full breakdown on him yet.
I think you and Shepard just became best friends with that. You just said right there. I really do.
It's something that we talk about a lot in Devi, just because it's such a barren wasteland out there. It takes a lot of time for them to really bake. Chris and I are both kind of the same strategy. We don't really reach for tight ends. We fade them a lot. Like, I'm never going to take a tight end early in any Devi supplemental drafts. That's kind of carried over to the NFL unless they get that draft capital, right? If they're Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland, go into a good offense, then I could be there we put where we can outside exactly though, and it's amplified in Devy. I mean,
Really? Okay.
it's barren in the NFL because the pipeline hasn't really produced that many outside of like, I mean, look, we have a few top guys at the tight end position,
Right.
and you're seeing it. I think we have some exciting guys like, Tanner, who we just mentioned. He has some exciting athletic traits. He's 6'7". I believe he had over 727 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, 2.26 yards per route run. So I mean, he's pretty efficient out there, but he's an older player. I believe he's a 5th-year senior. No, he's 4th. But, he transferred from Ball State, kind of had that lower level competition, goes to Houston, has a good year. You like what you see. It's going to really depend on landing spot, and I don't expect him to get the draft capital. But there was a tight end that you mentioned that I am relatively high on for a sleeper, and that's Justin Jolie of NC State. And I think Chris and I both love him. We had him on our Scouting Sleepers episode a couple months back. Yeah, and I'm just really in love with that kid. He can block, he can receive, he could do it all.
See, and the one tight end that I'm in love with, and his name sounds like a bull rider's name, Lake McCready.
Oh, there we go. Come on. Yep. Yes, sir.
Watching that season play, I couldn't keep my eyes off him. He's reliable. He kind of reminds me of a Michael Mayer kind of tight end where he's good at blocking, but he can release and catch the ball. He's reliable, but he was overshadowed by Jacoby Lane and my guy, Lemon.
Yeah, and that's where, I love talking like game theory and, league format and all that. And tight end premium has become very prominent.
Yep.
But I'm pretty fond of 2 tight end leagues because then you're forced to start guys like Michael Mayer, where it's a guy who isn't going to make a big splash every week, but he's getting on the field at least a decent bit because of his all-around game. And that's when it really, for us sickos, especially us Devy guys, where it's like, okay, now you got a chance to put a guy in your lineup and it's not going to be pretty, but he might have a shot. And really that's all you're hoping for from a lot of these tight ends, especially when you're starting 2 tight ends. If you're in a 12-team league, that's 24 starting tight ends. That's like bonkers, man. That's crazy to think about. So really all you're hoping for is they get one play where they're going to catch a touchdown. And at that point, you're just wanting guys that can get on the field.
Yeah, that's the Dawson kind of person that you want on your team that steals touchdowns from Kincaid.
Yeah, that's when you got like Drew Sample on the field or something. You know what I mean?
I've been kind of shocked with how consensusly low a lot of people are on like Eli Stowers. I look at like Aronde Gadsden and how he kind of had like a pretty immediate impact for the Chargers, and if Eli Stowers could get to the right situation, that he could kind of put that kind of productivity to a team. What do you guys think about him?
I love Stowers. I'm not low on him at all. I've gone back and forth between him and Sadiq as my tight end 1. I mean, I think at this point I have to put Sadiq as number 1 just because he's such a good blocker. Stowers, that's obviously going to be a struggle, but I mean, he was recruited as a quarterback, right? And so, I mean, he has a different type of athleticism, a different type of skill set. And then obviously becoming a program changer for Vanderbilt there with Diego Pavia. I mean, he was that program. I know Diego Pavia gets a lot of the shine there, but if it wasn't for Eli Stowers going there and being the man, I mean, if you guys want to have a good time on a film watch, turn on his Texas tape of what he did to them this year. I mean, and he really showed out, man. Like, I mean, so much fun, such a receiving weapon. If you're drafting Eli Stowers, you're not drafting him for his blocking ability. I think something we've talked about a lot on the Devy Dojo is the cyclical nature of the NFL, meaning like the concepts and the strategies and the schemes that they deploy, it always seems to go back. It's like this never-ending circle. And right now with the cover 2 defenses that we're seeing, these hybrid looks, kind of smaller defenders, you're starting to see more teams go to heavier personnel, the 12 and 13 personnel. That means you're getting 2 or 3 tight ends out there. I mean, Colston Loveland was just taken 10th overall, right? We had Tyler Warren 15th overall this last draft. You're starting to see tight ends become a little more prevalent. And I think Eli Stowers kind of fits that modern mold where he's not going to be out there asking to run block. He's not really going to be lined up in line a lot too. He's going to get those slot looks, and that's the easy button target for targets. So if you're playing in PPR leagues with a heavy tight end premium, he kind of profiles as that guy that could be a heavy contributor to your lineups.
All right. What about Max Clare Is he somebody that needs to kind of show up a little bit to move up? Or is he'll
I-
be whatever he does, he'll just be probably a third, late day 2.
I do a
early
little
day
bit
3.
of helmet scouting with Ohio State tight ends because a lot of them make it to the NFL, but not a lot of them produce very much. And I know you're not supposed to helmet scout, but
Well, you
for
know, helmet
me,
scout.
maybe he's a little bit, just the logo on their helmet. So
Okay.
whatever school they played for,
All right.
which you're not supposed to do, but there's often times, it's just like anything. There's a reason that people start to have that opinion, and it's because it, just like Tennessee wide receivers, right? Which is a whole other conversation we can get to in a little bit. But
Yep.
Max Clare, I think, is a decent option, but I don't really see him being anything more than like a rotational piece. One of those guys that's probably going to have a long NFL career as a tight end 2, tight end 3 type, but never going to be the guy that's winning your fantasy leagues. I do like the tight end, though. I just talked about it's a little bit more bottom heavy, but I kind of see it as much like wide receiver, where we have the big 3 with Lemon and Tate and Tyson. There's a big 3 for me. So to your question, Jay, I like Stowers a lot. I like Sadiq a lot. I like Michael Trigg a lot. And for me, it's kind of interchangeable. I'm going to avoid taking Sadiq most often based on where he's going right now and the kind of like the late first. And I'm just going to be hammering wide receivers at that spot. And then I love taking shots on Michael Trigg. I love taking shots on Eli Stowers in the early second. But I think all 3 of them have an opportunity to be pretty legitimate fantasy producers in the NFL for us as fantasy players. So I like Michael Trigg because, much like I like Tyson, he's just a highlight machine. Like I know that if you throw the ball to Michael Trigg, he's going to have an opportunity to make a catch, make a play on it. And I think that's what ultimately you want, especially from tight end. You just want a guy who can go out there and get plays. And no matter which quarterback he's playing with, whether it's a rookie who's just looking for that easy button tight end option or a vet who's got a good rapport with him and knows where he's going to be, he's going to have a chance to make a play because he makes absolutely insane one-handed grabs, beautiful sideline grabs. So Michael Trigg has been my favorite of this class for a little while now, but they're to me, it's kind of like a big 3 with Stowers and him and Sadiq at the top.
You kind of hit my trigger. Haha, LOL. But I knew his name eventually was going to come up. Does it not scare you? I know he's a highlight machine, and we're talking about just playing football. But does it scare you that he's kind of been all over the country, during college? That kind of like makes me not kind of want to avoid him a little bit. Why didn't it work at USC? Why didn't it work at Ole Miss? Like, why didn't it work all these places? We see you make these plays, but why can't you stay on the team?
Yeah, because he's a knucklehead. He's a knucklehead.
A bit of a knucklehead. And, there's a lot of guys that are going to come with baggage. And as we write these rookie profiles up, I feel like it's one of the red flags that I'm putting, potential, XYZ, they've done something stupid at some point. And he was a guy who was high on a lot of people's Devy radars, 5 years ago.
Very much so.
And then kind of fell off. And he's done really well at Baylor. I get that he's bounced around, but that's also, and I'm a traditionalist, but that's the modern NCAA, man. People are just going to go around. Like, even if you're a top end guy who's producing, you might still get enticed by somebody who's going to pay you $5 million a year to make the transfer happen. So you see guys entering the portal and just to pull their name back. So it's a weird climate that we're in right now. And I think there needs to be a little bit more regulation to kind of tighten it up. And especially with the way that they have the schedule where people are entering their names in the transfer portal while they're preparing for the playoffs. That's just ridiculous, So the whole coaching carousel and transfer portal that they currently have, it doesn't work. So they need to at least adjust that a little bit. But coming back to Trigg, I think a lot of guys are going to have those kind of red flags on their profile, but ultimately what matters is the same things that have always mattered. Can you play, and where do you get drafted, and how high do you get drafted? So I think he's got a decent shot to be a day 2 guy. I think that if he's in the right spot, he can be a pretty legitimate threat, receiving weapon for an NFL team.
It almost sounds like he needs to kill the interviews too. That if he doesn't interview good, then that's going to make him fall.
And by all accounts, like he's done better. It's been a combination of like team suspensions, some injuries as well. Obviously, when Lincoln Riley came to USC and Lane Kiffin was booted out, Jackson Dart and Michael Trigg both left and went to Ole Miss. And they kind of left together as a package deal with Lane Kiffin, and then some more suspensions. It's kind of been like a combination of either an injury or suspension. I do think he finally pulled it together. I've said that a lot. Like, I think he's finally matured enough, hopefully, because he didn't get in trouble at Baylor. He didn't get hurt. He put it all together. And the thing that I do really like about Michael Trigg is he's a deep vertical target. He's going to attack those intermediate and deep levels of the field more so than any tight end in this class. You look at PFF and his depth is the highest. His ADOT is the highest. So that's something that I do like. They deploy him from the slot a lot. He's an okay blocker. He's a decent like stock blocks and crack blocking, but he's not really known for it. He's a wide receiver out there essentially. Like he looks like this sculpted little Greek god out there. He's a lot of fun to watch. I do have some hesitation though, just a little bit, because I haven't seen it consistently enough. Hey, have that good head on his shoulders. So I mean, there is some concern. And truthfully, Justin Jolie is rising up for me. This started the second time I'm mentioning him, and I was putting in my notes like, is he going to pass Trigg? ? And we're going to see at this combine. That's why he's somebody that I'm very excited to
move
see.
up to the top 3.
He'd be close. He's already close with Trigg right there for me. Like the more I put on it in his tape, and pre-film watch, I didn't have him. I had him down at 4. But the more I'm watching, and I watched Trigg, and I came away whelmed just watching Michael Trigg. He didn't blow me away like I was expecting on this Baylor tape. Aside from like week 1 where he had a 28% target share against Auburn this season, other than that, like he had some great highlight plays. Chris touched on that. He will make those one-handed catches, toe tap on the sideline. You'd be like, damn, that's amazing. But I just don't see it consistently enough, and the blocking is there. So we'll get into it, though. We'll see how the combine rolls. I'm not quite ready to say that yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if I do.
I have a couple quarterbacks. We'll switch to quarterbacks. Lou Altmaier, he needs to do something good because he shit the bed Senior Bowl. He looked terrible. And the whole time the announcer is saying he's the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft. And I'm thinking, well, what are you guys watching? Are you watching the same thing I'm watching? Are you guys on drugs? What's going on? What do you mean?
Well, that's the other thing. We just talked about the current climate in the NCAA. I feel like if he was truly that good of a prospect, he would have gotten an offer to go somewhere else this year. But
there you go. Yeah.
He's not a terrible quarterback, but I don't. You talked about Will Howard earlier. I like Will Howard more than I like Luke Altmaier. There was guys later in last year's draft like him, like McCord, that I liked more than I like Luke Altmaier. So, and I think honestly with Senior Bowl, like if you're gonna crap the bed at the Senior Bowl, that's just a glimpse into what it's like. You're going to be on the field against dogs. Even in preseason, you're going to be on the field against dogs. So like, it's not good when you don't perform at the Senior Bowl. And I know we see a lot of guys that get hyped in the Senior Bowl that never pan out too. So it's kind of how much can you really put on that? But I think that it shows more if you don't perform well in the Senior Bowl than it does if you do well in the Senior Bowl.
Yeah. What do you think of Green?
I like him because he's one of the better dual threat quarterbacks in this class, and I love guys that can rush. And ultimately, that's what you're looking for is fantasy points. You need to have some sort of passing ability. I was a notable fader of Anthony Richardson years ago, and I think that's panned out in my favor. Unfortunately, because I love the guy. When you talk, I love watching interviews. I love seeing the intangibles and seeing how they are as leaders. And I think Anthony Richardson is truly one of the greatest guys in the NFL. So I feel bad, but when I watched this tape, I was just like, no, you don't even have to watch this tape. You just talk to any Florida fan, they're like, this guy's terrible. He's never going to make the NFL. So taking him in a top 5 pick, I thought was bonkers. And unfortunately, it panned out that way. But when you're talking about guys like Taylon Green or even Milroe or whoever who aren't going to get top 5 capital or even round 1 capital, and they have that dual threat ability, those are always fun guys to take shots on, because if they get a chance to perform, their value is going to spike like crazy. So even if you don't believe in them long term, they're good investments because that they're going to be the top name on the waiver wire that week, and that means you can sell them for much more than you bought them. So I think Taylon Green's got a legitimate shot at being a decent starting quarterback. I don't think he's going to win any Super Bowls, but I think he could be fun for fantasy.
See, I think I said this in the comments too in the Dev court. He just watching him, Terrell Pryor just comes to my mind when I'm watching him, and I can't get that out of my head. And Terrell Pryor, he was decent as a quarterback, but he's better as a receiver. So I don't know if that's be a direction that Green might go, or if he needs to get to the right team that could develop him right and fix his little hiccups.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because
Yeah.
he had some highlights and he had some lowlights. So
Yeah.
ultimately what comes down, not even us, but coaches want their quarterback to be able to pass. So he's shown the ability to throw a nice ball and get it in the proper places against decent defenses in the SEC, but he's also shown some really clear mental errors where you're thinking, why is he throwing it to that guy when there's XYZ receiver open? You know what I mean? So it's going to matter a lot. Just like I talked about before, a lot of these guys are going to need good coaching, sit out a year or two, and then when they get the opportunity. But look at where we're at right now. Malik Willis is the hottest name in free agency at quarterback.
Yeah, and that scares me. It really does.
Exactly.
It should scare you a little bit, but there's always an opportunity for you as a fantasy owner to take a 3rd, 4th round flyer on Taylor Green and then see what happens in a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good game theory. It really is that Chris has said. I've taken advantage of that a lot of times in Dynasty. I don't believe in Jalen Milroe as a player, but I'm going to take him, and maybe if something happens, I could flip him. That's kind of always the mindset that you should take. But just from a pure prospect standpoint, I'm pretty out on Taylor Green. He has had some decent passing performances, but right here in PFF, it shows 3.20 time to throw. That means it's taken him over 3 seconds to hold the ball before he's throwing it. That's way too long. If you're holding, that's long in college. That's an eternity in the NFL. And passer, like the offensive line, is going to be able to hold up for you. And your athleticism alone is not going to be able to beat these defenses because you're playing, like Chris said, against dogs on every level of the defense there. And I just haven't seen enough from him post snap to be able to do that. And I feel like every year, every cycle, we're kind of talking ourselves into, but the athletic upside. I think he could do it. And again, like we mentioned earlier at the top of this show, intelligence, processing defenses post snap is the most important trait that a quarterback can have. And I don't see that with Taylor Green.
No,
I truly don't. So for that reason, I'm out.
Yeah.
Game theory is one of my favorite parts of playing fantasy. And for that reason, I'm always trying to, if you're in trade negotiations, people are always, especially if they come to you, they're always trying to get their guy. You can always negotiate your way into getting another 4th round pick thrown in or a 3rd round pick thrown in or whatever. And that's what's fun is when you load up on all these picks and you come to draft, even a draft like this, which isn't, a great draft class overall, just start taking shots on guys. Who cares? You know what I mean? You basically got that pick for free. You were going to take the trade anyway. You got it thrown in. Take a guy that you think might have an opportunity for upside that you might be able to either, like I said, sell for more or eventually put into your starting lineup and then see what happens. And I think getting more and more into Devy has kind of maybe the same way, because realistically all that matters is upside, right? When you have guys on your Devy roster, you're focused on upside. It doesn't matter how well they're doing at the college level. You're wanting them to make it to the NFL and ultimately be a performer on your fantasy roster. So I'm always looking for upside, no matter if it's in a normal redraft league or if it's in Devy or anywhere in between. You want to find ways to get names that you think might have potential to score fantasy points into your lineup so that you can make the next move.
How do you guys draft the college players? Is it on sleeper or?
Sort of. Sometimes we do. There's not a really good way to do it anymore. We're waiting for somebody to make a nice Devy platform, but my favorite way to do it is we do IDP leagues without IDP scoring. So we'll do like the defensive line is running back. So you draft a defensive lineman and then you put the name as like their nickname or whatever of the actual player. And then they're just on your taxi squad or something like that. I think that's kind of nice. But a lot of times even if we do it like that, we'll have a spreadsheet of, on Google Sheets or something, just to make sure we have track of everybody's Devy team so that we know who's got which players so that nothing gets lost in translation, because you never know what might happen.
Right on.
Yep.
Running backs. Give me a small school running back you're looking for, then we'll get into the bigger boys.
Okay. He's not really a small school, but he's a name that people weren't really talking about. He is being steamed up right now, but Mike Washington Jr., man, he captured my heart in the film review. I'm in love with this dude. 228 pounds. This freak athlete, 21 miles per hour at the Senior Bowl. Had me turn, and I've watched Mike Washington before, but during the broadcast, sometimes you see him pop, but you don't think anything of it. watching his film, man, he did it consistently. Consistently this season was able to show that blend of speed and power and surprising wiggle, like inside the lane, in congestion. He's setting blocks up down the field. He's moving. Oh, it's so smooth, man. Analytics aren't always going to be as kind to him just because he's an older prospect and, playing at Buffalo and things like that. But when you dig into his backstory, and, I am writing his profile for the rookie guide, his recruitment year as a senior happened during COVID, right when COVID hit, and it shut down in-person visiting. He had a monster junior season in high school, over 1,500 yards, I believe, 17 touchdowns. He went off as a junior, and he was profiling as a 4, potentially a 5-star player if he had continued that in his senior year. In his senior season, the entire senior season was cut. There was no senior season for him because of COVID, and that directly impacted his recruiting. So now he's labeled as a 3-star. There's no in-person evaluations by scouts, and he stays close to home, and he goes to Buffalo. Some issues there. I believe he still had the longest run in Buffalo program history. He moves on to New Mexico and those players, they're in those places, but then he gets to Arkansas. And this last season, man, he put it all together. Now, Arkansas, they didn't win a lot of games this season. They weren't a very good team overall, but they did have a decent O-line. But man, even outside of the good blocking, he profiles and he looks like an NFL back.
Yes,
a guy that can get decent offensive line because he can create independent of the offensive line. He can create with his athleticism, with the speed, or just knock a dude over. His yards after contact are incredible. So he's somebody that I'm very, very excited for.
Do you think he'll be a bell? He could be a bell cow. Do you think he'll be situational?
No, he's a bell cow. He's a bell cow because he's a good enough pass blocker. Excuse me. And although he doesn't have like the most gaudy receiving stats on film, you could see it. And I think he even did it at the Senior Bowl. He showed those soft hands. He's not going to run like any like option routes out there. Like he's never going to be mistaken for a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Bijan Robinson, but he's going to be able to take those dump offs, the screens, and he's going to be functional. He has enough athleticism and speed and that power combination that he's going to be able to make some magic happen out there. So absolutely, he's a guy he's a 4-down back.
Right on. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I have 2 guys that I would like you guys kind of speak on. The first guy is he's from a smaller school, but people kind of know his name is Damon Claiborne. He's actually
that was gonna be my guy. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's my running back too. I think he's just
love that.
Like I think he's like he's in that Jahmyr Gibbs role that I think a lot of teams are looking for now. I don't think there's a change of pace back and that having a negative connotation anymore. I think he's, like I said, the 3-down player, super explosive. And the other guy, I was kind of calling in the middle of college football. I don't know if you guys know about it or not, but from UTSA, Robert Henry Jr. He started off really hot and kind of, fell down. Then I kind of lost track of him. But yeah, please give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I love Damon Claiborne. He was going to be my guy for this question. I'm glad you brought him up. He just looks so good, man. He puts defenders on ice. But what I really like about him, he's shifty. He's perfect for the modern NFL game. But it seems like when he's running through traffic, he makes decisive cuts very quickly. Like he has that cerebral ability to use his talents to the absolute max by just knowing exactly when to make the right move. So I'm very big on Damon Claiborne. Robert Henry's a guy that we both discussed on our Sleepers episode a couple months back, and not necessarily a guy that I think we both thought we would like him more than we did. I'll let Dustin talk about him a little bit. We both came away a little bit less impressed than we thought we would.
Yeah, I mean the film starts off hot, right? They're playing Texas A&M week 1, and he has that big long touchdown run. Like that was by far his best game. And then you saw throughout the season, it's just inconsistent vision was my biggest thing for him. And as a guy who doesn't have a lot of other overwhelming athletic traits, that's the biggest thing. He's got to be able to see the holes and hit them. And I just didn't see it enough at times. Even on big gains that he had, Jay, it was like he's cutting towards a defender. And I couldn't get over the lack of vision. Like you're on a great play. If you simply cut to the left, you're going to have a blocker right here, and there's no defender around you. There's no excuse. And he like cut into contact towards 2 other defenders, and he goes down. So while, yeah, he got a big play, it went from being a 12-yard gain from what could have been a 60-yard gain. And it just smaller examples of just running into linemen, things like that. I came away a little underwhelmed. Like Chris said, we both went into that anticipating. I mean, he was on our thumbnail for God's sake during that episode. We said, "Oh yeah, this guy, man, he started hot in the season," and then you saw it go from him being like the bell cow to now the other guys coming in and kind of spelling him and taking over more of the
definitely
share.
Slowed down as the year went on.
That makes sense if you look at like you said, like the carries analysis and how that kind of starts and spikes. It's like, well, what happened? Like you were almost like the leading rusher in all of NCAA, and then now you're splitting carries with some guy that we don't even know who his name is. So that totally checks out.
And one thing that I think got a lot of buzz last year with Trevion Henderson was how good of a pass blocker he was. So that's kind of always on my mind. Like, can you stay on the field for all these situations? And Robert Henry just is not a good pass blocker. The more I watched him, I knew he was going to get overwhelmed against better edge defenders. So you're going to have to take him off the field in certain scenarios. And if you get, we just saw this year with the Steelers, with Aaron Rodgers wanting Jalen Warren on the field because he's better at that than other guys, or Kenneth Gainwell on the field, which is why Caleb Johnson got sent to the shadow realm, right? You want guys who have an opportunity to get on the field no matter what's happening. And Henry just didn't look like a great pass blocker to me, which was kind of a negative mark. I still think he's got some nice talent, but he's just more, for me, like a late round flyer than anything.
Late round. Yeah, he's going to be like a 7th round NFL draft pick, maybe even undrafted, I think. He's a guy that maybe if he gets some opportunity, you could get some spike value from him. Like if he gets that shot and you could flip him. But yeah, nothing special.
His best case scenario is probably like do well in camp and get an opportunity to be like RB3 rookie year, and then creep his way up a lineup depth chart. But which is a shame because, like Dustin just said, we were thinking we were going to like him more until we did that episode. And for like a little behind the scenes, behind the curtain of the dojo, we always request our thumbnails like a week before we actually do our episode. And a lot of times what we like to do is, hey, we're going to review these players. Let's not talk to each other about them. Let's just watch tape, write up our notes, and then come on the show and see what happens. So that's exactly what happened with that episode. We were like, let's put Robert Henry on the thumbnail. We like him. And then we both kind of watched the tape. We're like, not quite there for us, unfortunately. Yeah.
but we did both come away impressed by a wide receiver. I don't know if we're moving into wide receivers at all, but he's a guy that I'm ready to talk about.
I have a couple questions for running backs. Allen from Penn State and with both the boys from Indiana at the combine, which one do you think will do better, move up stock wise?
I would say Singleton probably. Or wait, Singleton's not even going, is he?
No, he's Singleton has the broken foot.
Yeah, that's right.
Or ankle.
Well, that's unfortunate for him.
He broke something, but yeah.
Yeah, I just remembered. That's unfortunate for him because he could have really used that after the year that he had. I'll let Chris speak on Katron Allen. I like Katron Allen, but he's the Penn State grad over there. So I'll let him talk about it.
I'm a big time Penn State homer. I love the Penn State boys, and I love Katron. I mean, he's the all-time leading rusher at Penn State now, which is remarkable. And then the next week, actually, after he set that record, Singleton set the record for all-time touchdowns at Penn State. So pretty cool that they both did so well together for so long. And I like Katron a lot because, much like I like Jeremy Bernard from the wide receiver side, because I feel like he's got a safe role in the NFL, but he doesn't have major upside. And specifically with Katron, this is a class of running backs that I don't think there's very many. We have Love, and then like take your pick. And there's going to be a lot of guys that are busts because of where they go and where we draft them, and then they don't get opportunities. I think Katron is one of those kind of guys that's going to make a name for himself in a locker room and with his coaches, and he's going to be a good Thunder in a Thunder and Lightning role. But I don't think that he's necessarily a full-blown workhorse. I don't think there's a future for him, as a every year RB1 in fantasy. Right. I think he's going to have an opportunity for 2-3 years to certainly make an impact as a guy, especially around the goal line. He's just got that thump to him. He wants it, like he craves contact. He wants to hit guys. And if that can translate to the NFL level, which I think it can, and I think he's proved that this year by kind of seizing the backfield as the RB1 at Penn State, he's going to have an opportunity to really make and break your weeks in fantasy, which is great. And for that reason, I like him a lot in this RB class. But Nick Singleton, unfortunately, I mean, we were both extremely high on him coming into this season, and he just looked like nothing this year, which is funny because all the analytics, early breakout, like I just said, he's the all-time leading touchdown scorer at Penn State, which is, think about all the Penn State running backs that have come out.
Right.
Obviously Saquon, Miles Sanders. There's been guys every year that have been good, in the last few cycles, but it seems like he's petered off every year. And that's not something you want. You want a gains team going into the NFL draft, not the other way around. And now he's got the injury, so he's not even going to be able to rise too much. So I think he might end up being a decent dynasty sleeper this year, but it seems like he's still going, and all the mocks we're doing in like the mid-second round, and that's way too high for me.
Yeah.
What about Jaden Ott? He kind of opened my eyes up a little bit at the Senior Bowl, but the numbers
I've been out on him. Yeah, I just, coming from Cal and then having the opportunity that he had at OU this season, and he couldn't get on the field. He couldn't stay, running into blockers. I think that he profiles as a decent receiver, and that's where he's going to make his money at the next level. I think if he does have a good combine, some team might be able to talk themselves into him because there is upside. Like there is talent with Jaden Ott, right? The athleticism is there. That's why he's tantalizing. Like in the Senior Bowl and those practices and those one-on-one situations where he can really let that athleticism show, he shows that he's really good. But the problem for me with Jaden Ott is that when the pads come on, right, and they start cracking and they hit the boy a little bit, he doesn't really like that contact too much for what I've seen. Very talented with the ball in his hands as a receiver, though. And so that's kind of like the best case scenario. Can he go to a team that's going to give him a role where he can function in that, where he can take the little dump offs,
like an Austin role?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, there's always hope in the NFL. I don't like to always, definitively say I got my crystal ball and I know the range of outcomes for these guys, but it's just for me with running backs specifically, if you don't have vision, I don't think that you can survive. You have to be able to create outside of your offensive line, set up the blocks. You have to. It's just fundamental for me. And he didn't display that trait for me. So I still actually have to watch him for the guide. He's one of my guys, and I'm almost done with all the running backs, but he's one that I've left because I know it's not going to be a very long watch because there's not a lot of reps for him this year.
Yeah, don't watch the OU tape. Just go take a couple years back to Cal.
Yeah, Cal. Hey, man, Cal.
You're not missing anything.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, man. So
that went down drastically.
Yeah, and we were excited for him. Like that was a big time transfer this time last season. Oh, Jaden Ott. I mean, everybody was leaving Cal. Everybody was leaving that team. So we were excited.
I was pressing the gas so hard for Mateer Ott combo. Man,
me too.
I had a Mateer for Heisman because I just knew that him and Ott were just going to just kill in SEC. But
yeah, I made a Devy trade earlier in the year where I moved off DJ Lagway, and I got me some Mateer. And we were doing early 2026 NFL mocks, rookie mocks back in like late September. We had John Mateer go number one. He was going to be the number one guy. I was the number one, right, Chris? You remember that when I was steaming up Mateer all off season, all season?
It looked good for a minute. I mean, he was leading Heisman candidate for
I was a genius for like a month and a half. I was a genius for a month and a half.
You might still be because I'm sure you still got Devy shares, so he's coming back. We'll see what happens.
I do.
Listen, we're right here, okay? Listen,
yeah, for
once
sure.
that hand's going to get healthy, we're back. We are back.
Hey,
right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. CJ, you know ball, man. I knew I liked you.
Yeah, before we go on the wide receivers, so house cleaning news. Hey, Ghost, if you like what you're hearing and it's the first time you're listening, please hit the like and subscribe. Help us to the road to 700. Try and get that by preseason. Appreciate y'all. Wide receivers, man, my favorite position. I fancy myself as a wide receiver as a young goat, as a young rhino, but my ankle was wonky, so it didn't let me digress there. So I wrestled instead.
Yeah. Hey, Chris was a wrestler too.
Yeah, well, Penn State.
Not at Penn State. I'm not that good. I wrestle. I love wrestling,
Yeah,
but
you have to
I
be
only
a
wrestled my
different
senior
type of
year of high
guy.
school, and I got my butt kicked, dude. But I love it. I love wrestling. Penn State, obviously, fantastic. It's fun to go to those. You know, if you guys are ever in Pennsylvania around wintertime, you got to go to a wrestling match.
Yeah. Buy, sell, hold, Lemon, Tate, Tyson.
Buy all of them.
Buy them all.
That's a tough question, man. Why would you?
You have to play the game. You can't cheat and say buy them all.
Buy Tyson, sell. Wait, this is I'm used to keep trade cut. So which one's better, sell or hold? Sell Tate. We're gonna sell Tate and then hold Lemon.
Okay,
that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah,
and I like Tate a lot. I'm one of the world's biggest Tate fans, but it seems like everybody's caught up to me and surpassed me a little bit.
I'm gonna buy Tyson because I think you could get him cheaper just because of the injury narrative and the history. So I'm gonna buy Tyson. I'm going to hold Lemon, and I'm going to sell Carnell Tate. Yeah,
I'm with you on that one.
I can't sell Lemon.
I know. I have to sit with the guys, and I know why you guys are buying Tyson in this. I know why. I completely understand it, but I have to sit with the guys who love Tyson, and I don't see it. I don't. It's not that I don't see him as him being a good wide receiver. I don't see him as the top 10 prospect that he was hyped up to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I just don't see it yet.
That's what's so fun about these wide receivers, man. Not even just the big three, because everybody's got them all shuffled, but the entire class, it's like everybody's got different ranks. But I like Tyson, which is funny because Dustin was the big Tyson guy coming into this year, and I've now become the Tyson guy. Much for the same reason I like Trig, man. The guy's just a dog. He can get highlights. You know he's going to have an opportunity to get the ball if you throw it near him. I think he's got the best upside, and like I said, I'm just swinging for the fences with a lot of these picks, man. You don't want to miss. And I think Lemon's probably the safest pick, and Lemon's completely outperformed what we thought he was going to do this year. So he looks fantastic. You can't go wrong with any of these three guys. And like I said, I was one of the world's biggest Carnell Tate fans in the Devy landscape coming into this season. And right now, I just feel like there's so much hype around him when you compare him to these other two guys. Not that it's unjustified hype, but he's just the lowest of the three for me of, these three guys.
Yeah, well, he saved Jordan Maeva's last ass a few times last season with his catch radius, big time.
Yeah, he sure did. And don't you love that, Ron? Everybody's like, oh, he's only 5'11", yada yada yada. Your height should only be held against you if you get bullied at the catch point. And we saw so many times Mekhi Lemon this season just go up and get it, like in that Michigan game. I mean, Iowa was incredible. I mean, he really put it all together in Iowa, and that's a good Big Ten defense. So, I mean, he will go up there and get the ball and maintain possession through very, very heavy contact. He's a dog out there. Like if we had it, go ahead.
Go ahead.
If we had a dog meter, I'm just saying he would score 100 on the dog meter. Yeah. We need to add that metric somehow to our analytics.
Yeah, we're gonna work on the dog metric. We're gonna figure that one out for sure.
I'm ready for that.
For sure.
It's funny because he plays tall, but then there's receivers out there that are tall that play small. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That drives me crazy. All right, man. Receivers, give me some small schools or sleepers.
Well, we were just Dustin was alluding to him on our sleepers episode. We talked about him, Ted Hurst, man.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
I don't want to steal Dustin's thunder, but this guy is fast and beautiful, man. He was clocked at over 22 miles an hour this year. But what I like about him, soft hands, man. It's like everything it's like a pillow. He's catching it all on a cloud, dude. I love it. He's just got beautiful, beautiful hands out there. And he tracks the ball really well in the air, and that's what you want out of a guy that can run 22 miles an hour.
He gets off the line quick too.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
He knows.
Yeah, he does.
He's beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying
beautiful in the red zone, but Georgia State. So what's the story behind why was he at Georgia State? Is there any reasons?
He was a small or 3-star prospect, so not super hyped guy, and never really ended up getting a ton of hype until his senior year, really. So he didn't get an opportunity to necessarily transfer. You don't necessarily want to knock that, but you want to, it's just one of a bunch of data points.
And what are you looking for him to do in the combine to move him up the draft board? What do you think he needs to do?
Yeah, I mean,
he needs to run a really good time.
Yeah, if he can run,
Chris.
I mean, he's that fast. So 40 time is what everybody wants out of wide receivers, right? So if he can clock in the, high 4.3s or 4.2 somewhere, you know what I mean? That would be beautiful for him because he's going to get a real shot.
I know one of the cons on him is his weight, but he could still put on 10 pounds and still be fast. Yeah, he's lean. He's just lean.
So I am anxious to get his measurements just because some places will say 180, 185. PFF had him at 190. So I don't know which one to believe. So I am pretty excited to see kind of where he's actually at. But yeah, I'm over the moon for the kid. I have him in my top 12 wide receivers currently, and he could go up.
It's so crazy how some of these dudes like draft stock could just go up simply off of like being on the scale.
Yeah.
Like not even breaking a sweat.
Yeah, exactly. And Chris, I just looked it up because I was curious when he said he was a 3-star. I thought he was lower. Yeah, Ted Hurst was a 0-star recruit. That's why he went to Valdosta State. So very, very minimal offer. So he went to Valdosta State and then eventually transferred to Georgia State. And then he even made Bruce Feldman's freak list. So the first Georgia State player to ever make it on the freaks list. So that tells you all you need to know about his athleticism. Very fast. I think he's got a better release package off the line against press man coverage than he's given credit for. I did have that little clip that I shared on Twitter going against Vanderbilt. So that was SEC competition, and he was having to go out there and play. And, they were in that game against Vanderbilt for a while. It kind of got out of hand after a little bit, but they were really competitive for a while. And he made that play. It was a big 3rd down conversion. That showed me what I needed to see. Okay, that's like your highest level of competition that you're going to be playing, and you were able to show out against him. So he's a guy that I'm looking forward to seeing how he does.
That tweet still keeps making the rounds too, because we're both tagged in it, and I get updates every time somebody else uses it. So people are still on Twitter looking at Dustin's clip of Ted Hurst out there. And, like the weight thing, of course, you want him to be a little bit more, a little bit more game weight, a little bit more functional weight, but he's 6'3". So like the height's it's not like he's small and skinny. He's tall enough that he's going to have an opportunity to make some plays on the ball, especially over these shorter cornerbacks. So it's not necessarily the worst thing. You'd like to see him get a little bit closer to 205 if possible, but it is what it is, man. He looks good the way he is. He's going to have a chance to make a name for himself in the NFL.
What about you, Chris? Who's a couple of your favorites to look at that you're looking to see, and what would they need to do to move at the draft board?
I mean, he's not like a super deep sleeper anymore, but I just finished my write-up on him. Eric McAllister, TCU is not a small school necessarily, but I'm very high on him. If you watched our last Dojo episode, I had him at wide receiver 7. Again, he's got some red flags. He had a felony charge against him for being an idiot before he had transferred to TCU. I think he pulled a gun on somebody in a Whataburger or something. So not stuff you want to see, but by all accounts,
the Whataburger?
Yeah. The coaching staff is stuck by him and, gave him an opportunity to come back and compete. And he did it for 2 years, and he's very, very humble about it. He says he knows he made a mistake. The coaching staff, he's very thankful for them for sticking by him. He had an absolutely amazing year this year, and he's become a leader in the locker room. When Josh Hoover said he wasn't going to play in the bowl game, he was the first guy in the locker room saying that the backup was the guy, and we're going to rally around him and yada yada yada. So seems like he's completely used that as a turning point, which is what you want. If you make a mistake, a lot of these guys are young. They're all going to. I mean, we were all idiots when we were 20 years old. 21 years old. We all did stupid stuff.
I'm glad there was no social media when I was that age. Trust me.
Yeah, and we didn't have the fame that he had. You know what I mean? As a transfer coming to TCU. So if you use that as a turning point to catapult yourself into greater things, that's kind of seems like what he did. But he led all Power 4 draft prospects with yards this year with 1190, and he was second among draft prospects if you count Skylar Bell, who played at UConn. His 10 touchdowns were 8th in all of college football this season. He was third team All-America. I mean, just an explosive year, and he absolutely dominated man coverage. He had over 4 yards per out run against man, and he was still pretty decent against zone. I think it was 2.4 something against zone. So a guy who doesn't really have a ton of flaws analytically. What you're really looking for is a little bit more refinement in his game, because I love his long speed. I love the way he runs 9 routes, and you can see those. He knows when to make the right moves to cut in and cut out to make the defender bite and completely miss on, gain some separation. But I think when you just look at his overall route running, he's going to need a little bit more refinement at the NFL level. So it's going to matter a lot which coach gets his hands on him. But I think that he's got one of the highest ceilings in this entire draft class. So I'm pretty high on him. I'm going to have a ton of him coming into this draft season. I think he's going to ultimately end up getting drafted higher than people think, probably day 2, and then settle in somewhere around early second round draft capital for ADP in dynasty leagues.
Yeah, so he just went in the second or third round. I think it's second round in the mock draft we just did.
I think I took him at the end of the second round.
Yeah, because I took Jacoby Landon, you took him.
Yeah, so love the guy. I mean, I would have taken him 6 picks earlier than that for sure. So I think he's great, and not the smallest sleeper. And if you're plugged in on the Twitter circles, he's surely gaining a little bit of hype. And I think at the combine, he's going to have a real chance to show out. And like you said, interviews are going to be a big factor. And no matter what us fantasy heads and wannabe analysts and whatever say about a guy, when we're watching his tape and looking at analytics, I like to listen to what guys like Daniel Jeremiah, these guys that are plugged in on the NFL, Todd McShay, when they start hyping up a name, that's when it's because NFL GMs are hyping up a name. So if he starts to get buzz from those guys, it's real.
What about the Indiana boys, Cooper and Surratt?
Yes. Man, you know what, Ron? You're reading my mind, because Omar Cooper Jr. is someone I just finished my profile on. Came away very, very impressed. Of course, if you watch our last Divvy Dojo episode, we did release our top 10 wide receiver rankings. I had Surratt, I believe at 9 or 8 somewhere there, and I had Cooper at 6, Cooper Jr. And he might even be moving up, man. I comp him to Brandon Ayuk out there. Yeah, I comp him to Brandon Ayuk out there because of and the early progression of Brandon Ayuk coming from Arizona State, where he was kind of more so known for his athleticism, wasn't the most technically refined route runner out there.
Right.
But once he was able to make that transition, you saw him hit that extra tier of just that next gear and the next level of player that he could be. And I see a lot of that in Omar Cooper Jr. Of course, against Penn State, Nittany Lions, he showed us, like, he had the catch of the year. Toe tapping 2 feet inbounds. Mendoza put it in the perfect spot. He showed you so many traits that are translatable to the next level. Now, people tell me he's very athletic, and I did see on tape he won, like, in his routes with a lot of that athleticism, not like the most technically refined guy out there. But there were times where he ran a post goal, like he's going towards the post in the middle of the field, running a post route, and as soon as he sees the safety coming down, he's able to flip his hips and hit to the opposite side. And it was a safety killer. I put that on Twitter as well. And that's nuanced stuff that you need to be able to show at the next level. He has alignment versatility. Him and Elijah Surratt actually switched roles this season. So Omar Cooper Jr. had always played from the outside, and he was productive at it. But this season, they put him in the slot, and he was still the leading receiver for them. He's just a dog, man. He looks like a running back with the ball in his hands. He's physical. I've seen him stiff arm a dude into the grave. I've seen him just do everything that he can to continue fighting forward and get more yardage. And to me, that matters. Like, I know I joked about having a dog meter, but I really do look for that because I think it matters. That's why pre-draft, I liked Malik Neighbors more than Marvin Harrison Jr. And I really liked both, but I had Malik Neighbors rated a little higher. So, like, I don't know, man, there's something about that LSU kid. He just wants it a little more. Like, it seems to matter. He seems to want it a little more. And that's what I see with Omar Cooper Jr. He's not.
Go ahead.
You know who he reminds me of, and it's kind of crazy because it kind of like all came together this week in a way that Twitter has kind of talked about him, and like Robert Woods retiring a Ram. He reminds me of Robert Woods so much. Like,
I could see that.
I see Robert
That's a great
Woods
comp.
in that guy. Like, I'm just like, yeah, that dude. Like, he's tough. He fights for yards. He does, like you say, he works inside and outside. I'm like, that dude's Robert Woods. Like we always can't comp the guys to like the absolute highest of the high. I'm just like,
of course,
I see Robert Woods in him like every time.
And Robert Woods is a really good receiver, and I know that
absolutely,
the fantasy wise it didn't quite pan out like we wouldn't, but he was a great receiver. So I mean that's an awesome comp. And Robert Woods had a higher ceiling than he ever achieved in real life. And I think Omar Cooper's got a really high ceiling too. I love the guy. And I don't have my notes right in front of me for him. And I know you just finished it up, Dustin, but I believe he had 27, 28 missed tackles forced. Like this guy's a machine after the 20s. Catch. Yeah. Which actually
most of this class
had 27 too. Yeah. So McAllister's the same way, but Omar Cooper has just been so much fun to watch. And yeah, he definitely put his name on my radar when he completely dogged my boys. We got to point out the Nittany Lions were the only team that almost beat the Indiana Hoosiers this year.
Oh, I mean, listen, you can have all the moral victories because Penn State didn't have a lot of real victories this year, so you can have that one.
It was a rough year. I don't know how it all worked out that we got Matt Campbell, because there was that 2-month period where we were going through the coaching search, and it was like, are we ever going to get out of this? That was almost as bad as the Paterno era, the end of the Paterno era there. Man. Just like
Chris, I'm not going to lie to you. Listen, I'm from Pennsylvania. I thought they were going to call me for a second, offer me the job. I didn't know what was going there at Penn State. I was like, man, they're never going to hire anybody.
My boy works at Penn State as a IT guy, and I was like, dude, put my name in there, you know? He does the computers for the athletic director. I was like, just tell him, like, hey, my dude, he's got a college football podcast. He can help you out.
He's got a fantasy championship. He can coach it.
It's funny. So when I was looking at Surratt's film, look at his film, but I couldn't keep my eyes off Omar Cooper and the way he was running his routes. It was like distracting. So right there's like, damn, there's something right here with this kid.
And I mean, Surratt had a great year too. 15 touchdowns. He looks good. He just doesn't look like the best receiver on the team, which is crazy because they were both fantastic. And I will always look back on this year so fondly because that was just such a fun journey, with Signetti and what was it last year? He's like, just Google me. I just win, which is true. And nobody thought they were going to win, and they didn't lose. So
Surratt is the king of the back shoulder catch.
He is.
Absolutely.
It's automatic.
Big time.
Automatic.
All right. Malachi Fields.
I haven't done enough research on him, but he's probably in the 10 to 15 range for me on these wide receivers. I know that he's got a little bit of analytical flaws, but he's had some nice catches too. So I wish I could have seen more out of him from what we've seen from CJ Carr this year. You would have liked him to be a little bit more of a number one guy.
Right. Because I know he was a darling at one point, but now it seems to be fading.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like Chris, I haven't done a deep dive on him. Of course, I've watched him like in broadcast games. And of course, I think the one that comes to mind is the big catch against Pitt where he's overstretched. And I think that's going to be where he makes his money, right? Is those contested catch situations where he can put his athleticism at display. I just gotta get in the film and see how he is against press, how he's running his routes when he's not being targeted. I gotta look at all that. Obviously, Notre Dame, they had a first time starting a redshirt freshman quarterback out there in CJ Carr. They had Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price out there.
Yeah.
Like it's Notre Dame. They're gonna run the ball. They're a primary running team. Not a lot of passing volume still. So it wasn't really fair to him. We didn't get a really good assessment of him. So I do want to kind of go back before I say I'm out. I do have him in my top 15. So there's something there. And some of my friends who had their boots on the ground up there said that they really liked what they saw. So those are people that I really trust in their evaluation. So it piqued my interest and I have to go back and look. But yeah, when I was watching Notre Dame, man, honestly, I was looking at Jeremiah Love.
Yeah, I think Anthony was right on here.
It's so funny, and Chris said something really important too, because I know we said we kind of hear these guys who are national, Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, things like that, kind of gives you a good sense. In his latest mock draft, he did have him going in the first round. I think Malachi Fields, it's Malachi Fields, right? Yeah, I think he's warranting us to give him a second look.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy that we need to look into a little bit deeper. I think he's not getting enough buzz right now.
What about you, Jax? Do you have any receivers you're looking to see who needs to do good?
I mean, there's a bunch. I mean, there's a bunch of guys who is just when it comes to wide receivers, like any one of these names could kind of change everything. Just some quick guys to highlight that I like to kind of hear what you guys have to say about really quick. I mean, Chris Bell, unfortunately, I think he could have been a top 3 wide receiver in this class if he didn't tear his ACL.
Yeah.
I'll be taking a whole lot of him when Dynasty comes around. But someone who's a super duper deep sleeper, and I would love to hear Chris's analysis of him. Because when I was watching Kyle McCord last year, I'm like, yo, who is this Trebor kid? Who is this guy? Right? And I'm like, and then he goes to Penn State. It doesn't work out because kind of the whole team implodes. But I understand that he's a 6-year guy. But I mean, someone has to watch that Syracuse tape and go, he can be a real player on my team.
Yeah, he was a guy I had high hopes for. He's definitely limited to the slot at the NFL level. I had higher hopes for him coming into Penn State this year. I thought that was a great transfer, a great pickup for them. Obviously, the year didn't go as planned, especially with Drew Aller, getting hurt fairly early in the year. So, the entire second half, he's playing with a guy who hadn't really started. And I would have expected a little bit more, but the end of the James Franklin era is going to be marked by a lot of things, but from my perspective, it's going to be marked on the fact that he didn't make any of these wide receivers really good. Earlier in his coaching career at Penn State, he had guys like Deshaun Hamilton, who had a little stint with the Broncos, one of Dustin's team. Yeah, Dustin's only team. He's not weird like me with 2 teams. And of course, Chris Godwin, who's still a stud. He's had some injury issues himself, but everybody knows what he can do when he's on the field. And then it just kind of fell off after that with wide receivers. And we were at the point where there was no wide receivers getting anything at Penn State. And it was just miserable for a while to watch wide receivers out there running routes, which I think is part of the issue with Drew Aller, which is one of the reasons I think that he's got an opportunity to rise. But Pena specifically, I think, is a decent slot candidate, but a guy who, much like we talked about with Robert Henry Jr., his best shot is probably, 6th, 7th round draft capital, relegated to a slot role, get on the field as a, safety valve option. So I don't know that he has a ton of fantasy value really, but I do love the guy. I wish him well.
Yeah. Any more Jax?
I see we got Chris Brazell on the screen. We do love Chris Brazell.
I actually love Chris Brazell too. I know you guys kind of alluded to the beginning of the show. I don't look at him as a Tennessee wide receiver, so I don't want that stigma to stick to him.
Go ahead. You, Jay.
No, go ahead. Please go.
No, I like you, Jay, man. We're aligned, man. We seem to like the same type of players, man. So I like it. I've been a Brazell guy. Will remain a Brazell guy. I mean, we saw it early in the season against Georgia. Dude was running these outbreaking routes, crisp breaks at the top of that stem. For a guy who's a legit 6'5", you don't see that a lot. Like, you would think he's a contested catch guy, which he can win in those situations. I think he's the best vertical tracker in this class. When he's able to beat the DB and go deep, which he did a lot at Tennessee, looks it in, man. It's just so beautiful. Led the SEC in receiving, but it's aside from all of that, it's the speed that he's able to pair, the route running ability. He to me seems like he should be a locked in first round pick, but of course you alluded to it. It's the stigma that it's attached to Tennessee wide receivers, right? They run those ultra wide sets. They're going to push them as far out to the numbers as they possibly can to get spacing. But that's not entirely true, at least this season. This season, they ran more condensed sets. They had more of a functioning NFL pro-style type of offense. I even saw him line up inline. I saw him line up in tight, condensed formations, trips formations, lined up to the line, and he's hitting a rocker step. Like, he's so nuanced. He has an NFL bloodline. His dad played for the Jets, I believe, back in the day, and some time in the Canadian Football League. To me, he's got it all. The only real question, of course, is going to be the size, or not height-wise, but body weight, 200 pounds, and he's a lean frame guy, right? Kind of high cut there, too. I do have concerns how he's going to handle the NFL physically, with more physical corners that are going to jam him at the line. He's got a good enough release package and some hand fighting ability that he can win in those situations. So I know he can do it, but I just didn't see it enough on tape. And just because of his body and the frame, naturally you think, okay, a guy like that might get stuffed up a little bit, but I'm very, very high on him, and I'm hoping that he gets that back into the first, man. Even to my, like, I thought maybe Denver could use a guy like Chris Brazell, and I would love that.
Like, how is he not a Buffalo Bill? Like, how is he? No, seriously, how is he not a Buffalo Bill? I mean, that's
because you only have Keon Coleman.
Okay, like I said, how is he not a Buffalo Bill?
I would love Casey Concepcion in Buffalo, because I think Joe Brady likes the short stuff. I think you can get him the ball and just let him run in space, or even be like a number one target. A lot of people comp Casey Concepcion to Stephon Diggs. So let's get a newer version of Stephon Diggs over there to Buffalo.
I would hate it only because as
Then you'd have to like
a
him.
noted fader of Concepcion, you're absolutely right. Because I think Joe Brady's not a great coach. You know, he's not going to give these wide receivers the ball. But I envision Concepcion as more of a closer to the line A-dot, lower A-dot guy. And I think that's exactly what works well with Joe Brady's offense. So I think that would pair well with the guys that they currently have on the team, including Keon Coleman, who I love. I love Keon Coleman, but it just hasn't worked out. And I think part of that's just the coaching. He just needs a new team, new change of scenery. But I think their best bet, honestly, the Bills, is just pick somebody up in free agency that's done it and, make it work. But quit drafting these rookies and hoping that something's going to happen. Don't just sign Josh Palmer. Sign somebody big, man. We just saw Stephon Diggs in the Super Bowl because he took a 1-year deal with the Patriots. Do something like that. Obviously, they had Diggs, but do something like that, man. Go out there and get a vet.
Well, Chris, we got Mr. Bakes a lot in the chat. He said Bills need to trade for A.J. Brown. That way Shakir can be in the slot. As an Eagles fan, what do you think of that? Look at your guy, A.J. Brown.
That would be a fantastic spot for him, but he's not going anywhere.
No,
the Eagles are the most dogged on team. There's so much negative hype around him just because everybody hates the Eagles. I truly believe that he wants to be an Eagle, and I truly believe that the Eagles and Sirianni love the guy. So when he's vocal about things, it gets a lot of hype, and when he's doing XYZ things on the sidelines, getting into arguments, reading a book, whatever, it gets hyped up. But he really wants to be there, and I think Sirianni loves him, and they have that kind of relationship where that stuff's not going to bother him. So the fact that he said that he was angry with the way that the offense was going, and then a day or two later he's like, it's not about me getting catches, it's just about the way the offense was. And he was completely right. The offense was ass this year. Patullo needed to go. Everybody, me, our boy Dynasty Dog Mike, every Eagles fan was saying this guy is horrible. They should have fired him in October, and they didn't. And that's ultimately why they didn't make it to the Super Bowl, because they could have made it to the Super Bowl this year. I'm very confident in that if they had a decent offense. And the offense was utter ass. But now they got basically two offensive coordinators. I love AJ Brown though. I mean, he's not moving because it's going to cost him a ton. Even if they wanted to move him, which they don't, it would cost them a ton of money. So if it'll happen in training camp or something. But I think the Bills would be a great fit. I mean, that would be perfect. As a guy who has a lot of AJ Brown in fantasy, that would be awesome, because he'll probably get more points there than he would in the Eagles offense. But yeah, that's not going to happen. We can wish cast it all we want.
Yeah. Hey, we've had you guys on long enough. Appreciate you guys being on here and doing the show with us. One more time, man. Give the goats how they can find you and how they can find the draft guide.
Yeah. So if you want to stay in touch with us, the best thing you could do is join the Devy Dojo Discord. Of course, Ron's a part of that. Jay, you need to get in there as well. But as far as our content and everything that we got going on with YouTube, the podcast, the Substack, all of that can be found. I have a link tree on Twitter, which my handle is right there on the screen at Empire Elite FF. Just go on the link tree, and everything that we have going on is right there. That's truly the easiest and fastest way. And of course, like you said, Ron, we are working on our network's rookie guide for this season, and we put a lot of work into the film there. I've looked at a lot of rookie guides out there, and this one I think is the most expansive. Like we're going back to high school days. How did they start? How did they get to this point? And how do their traits project to future success at the NFL. Like we've put a lot of work, a lot of man hours in the film room, digging in the analytics. Our graphics are incredible. Shout out to our boy Dev over there at FFSAN, Fantasy Football Advice Network. I jumbled all over that, and that is our network, and I apologize. It's getting a little late over
it's
here.
Two. It's Fantasy Sports Advice Network and it's Fantasy Football Network. So it's kind of
so confusing. But just search Devy Dojo. It's a little easier. It rolls off the tongue, you know, a little bit of alliteration. We like that. Devy Dojo. We're putting a lot of work into it, guys. Chris, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, that's perfect. If you like listening to audio, our podcasts are just Devy Dojo, wherever you listen to audio podcasts. It'll just be Devy Dojo. I make some fun graphics based on the stuff that our boy Dev has made for us for all of our YouTube videos. So you can find that on Fantasy Sports Advice Network YouTube. Great stuff. We appreciated being on here. We love chatting ball with you guys. I mean, that was an hour and a half and it felt like 5 minutes. So appreciate it.
Told you it was gonna fly, didn't I?
You did. You did.
Well, Ghost, that's it, man. Appreciate it, man. Be a difference, make a difference. Stay blessed, everybody. Good night.